Cavalier faithful, welcome back on in. JB Bickerstaff is gone. We've known this. Been a couple of days. We actually heard from the general manager on Friday. He said they were taking the weekend off as far as looking for the next head coach. Roll it.
Terry, it's an excellent question. I'd be lying to you if I said I've already dove into a list of people and criteria. We're going to take the weekend, decompress, come back Tuesday and really sit down with the staff and go over those questions.
We have a head coaching vacancy, and this dude just said we're going to take the weekend off. Okay. Not a weekend I would be taking off if I was a general manager. To each their own. Okay, we're going to get into it. They have narrowed it down, allegedly, per the rumors. There are two frontrunners that I've heard. They actually haven't narrowed down anything. I've just heard two frontrunners, reports here, rumors here, Jason Lloyd, whatever. Kenny Atkinson and Johnny Bryant. I haven't put together a full compilation of coaches because I've been waiting for frontrunners to emerge. Obviously, you have your Borregas. Obviously, you have other candidates in the mix. Maybe even Mike Brown come back. Hopefully not. I'm curious to see if they interview assistants. Do they look at J.J. Outlaw? Do they look at Luke Walton? God forbid. There's been a list. 5, 6 people. Like I said, Borrega included, some other names. But let's do Kenny Atkinson and let's do Johnny Bryant really quickly here because this is the due diligence I've done. I don't think it makes sense to look through 6 candidates when that's not realistic. They're going to narrow it down to a couple people, a couple finalists, go from there. Number 1, Kenny Atkinson. I got my notes here, so bear with me. Kenny Atkinson, 4 seasons as a head coach, 11 seasons as an assistant, so a seasoned guy. However, Atkinson's head coaching record, 118 and 190. Now, there's going to be factors that you have to, look into here. What kind of rosters did he have? What type of general managers were, above him as far as roster construction? Stuff like that. I bring up the record for a statistical standpoint. I bring up the experience to have it in there, but it's not the end-all, be-all. Now, this is what I did with these 2 coaches. And I'm going to tell you guys a story, and a good portion you're going to think it's silly. A good portion of you kind of know what I'm talking about. Since we have been doing this at the Cleveland Pulse, me, Justin, Logan, the most interesting information when it comes to should we trade for this player, bringing a new person onto the staff is always what the other team's fans or people who cover the other team that they're coming from says. To me, this is what I've noticed. I'll give you a great example here. When we traded for Karis LeVert, me and the boys did a live stream after the game where we traded for him because I believe we played Indiana the day we traded him. There were Pacer fans in our chat saying, you know what, this might be an okay trade on paper. Look at it like this. Here's the thing about LeVert. And you know what a lot of them said? A lot of them said, multiple people, not just one fan, they were civil individuals. And trust me, the people from the good state of Indiana know basketball. It is a big part of their life in that state, whether it's college, whether it's the pros. Obviously, we've seen that, we've seen that. However, there were multiple fans of the Indiana Pacers in our group chat saying, Karis LeVert is a talented player. He's going to frustrate the hell out of you with his inconsistent play. Sometimes he looks dominant. Sometimes he looks terrible. This was years ago, people, and that is an anecdote. That is one story, but I'll tell you that is something that always stuck with me. So what did I do? I go and look at Kenny Atkinson. I go and look at his bio, his experience, what's going on here, give you guys the relevant facts and figures, but let's go into another level of looking at what analysts say, looking at what people on social media say who cover the teams that Kenny Atkinson has been a part of. So here's what I found. A lot of people enjoyed what he did with the Brooklyn Nets in their rebuild. A younger team, a younger roster. He kind of showed that he could win with not a whole lot of talent and pieces. Maybe guys who had the potential to be talented but weren't quite there yet. Interestingly enough, he resigned from New York because of tensions with Kyrie and Kevin Durant when they were there in Brooklyn. Now, is that something I could hold against the guy? No, because you're not on the inside. You don't really know what's going on. That was a messed up situation. It didn't last very long. One of the shortest tenured big threes that we've seen, Harden, Durant, Kyrie, however you want to portray that situation. But there is a little bit of a pattern here that's interesting, but it's explainable. When he went to Golden State, he's on the Steve Kerr. This is going to be the first guy who's part of the Steve Kerr coaching tree. I know he's been in the league longer than that. But you always hear that, oh, this guy came from the Greg Popovich coaching tree, the Eric Spoelstra. You hear that in the NFL and the NBA. You hear it all the time. This guy is going to be a part of the Steve Kerr coaching tree, which I'm not opposed to. I think Steve Kerr is one of the better head coaches in our league. Yes, he comes into an absolutely banger situation in Golden State. He has all the pieces, but you still got to get the job done. You still have to coach effectively and not do stupid things. Kudos to Steve Kerr, what he's done in Golden State, even though I can't stand him or that franchise because of what they took from the city, and Kevin Durant mostly. But I digress. So when he goes to Golden State, interestingly enough, when Mike Brown gets offers elsewhere to be a head coach, Kenny Atkinson steps in as the Mike Brown aspect of Golden State. Now, that could be looked at one of two ways. Steve Kerr obviously trusted this guy to be one of his right-hand men and has for seasons. Good, love it. Big positive, big attribute. Or you could say, well, they replaced him. They used him as a Mike Brown substitute. Mike Brown is a defensive-minded. Is Atkinson only known for his defense? Because that's not what we need, truthfully. We don't need a defensive-minded head coach. We need an offensive-minded head coach who knows how to score points in the playoffs. That's what we need. So, little tidbit to think about here. Was he, just replaces the right-hand man, or was he, maybe his defensive prowess was what Steve Kerr was looking for? But good things in the Nets rebuild. Kind of had a bumpy road there with Kyrie and Durant. And then the Mike Brown replacement. Another interesting tidbit. Before the Warriors won their most recent ring, he agreed to be the Charlotte head coach. This was during their playoff run, I imagine. After they won the finals, he backed out of that. He saw the ring and said, hey, I'd rather be an assistant on a championship level roster and organization than go to Charlotte and really have no assets and kind of rot there. So that tells me one of two things. One, he's kind of loyal. He's loyal to the Warriors, but he kind of goes back on his word. A little bit 50-50 there. Number two, I think that shows to me that he has the foresight to be like, okay, let's think about it before I really get some more head coaching opportunities. And the Cleveland Cavaliers present a much better landing spot for him than the Charlotte Hornets of, the last 5 years have ever. So a little bit interesting there, but I'm looking through the YouTube comments. I'm looking at other people's columns over the years. Kenny Atkinson, oh, I hope he gets a head coaching job. I think he would excel. I think, if you gave him another opportunity with the right pieces where he could pull, shift the dials around the right way, he could excel in this league and be a good coach in the playoffs. I like what I saw about Kenny Atkinson as far as a front runner. I'm starting off with him because I think that he's kind of the guy. I think that he's the person who makes the most sense to me. We'll get opinions from Logan, Justin, and I'm sure everyone over on social media in the coming days. But Altman made it clear he was not certain if we would even have a coach by the draft. And I believe the draft is second or third week of June. Somebody fact check me. Let's keep it moving. The number two person that has been rumored that we are, having at the top of our list is Johnny Bryant. Now, you may have never heard of Johnny Bryant. I'm going to be honest with you. I only vaguely know of him because of the coaching search in recent years and because of doing some research last year as far as who we were going to see in the playoffs, because he has been a part of the Knicks assistant coaching staff. He actually has 6 seasons as an assistant, and he has 4 seasons as an assistant head coach under the New York Knicks, under Tom Thibodeau. So if that's an organizational, title that they give out in New York, as far as an assistant head coach, seems like a more elevated role as just an assistant. But this guy has never been a head coach. Now, he has 10 years of experience coaching in the NBA, but I just think it's funny to me that you see this guy, Johnny Bryant, rumored to us, but God forbid you bring up anything of the sorts of JJ Redick. Oh, he has no experience, this guy has no head coaching experience either. This guy and JJ Redick have the same amount of head coaching experience. Newsflash. And I think JJ Redick is a guy that we should give a fair shake to. I don't know if he's the answer. And I know that he kind of seems to be like that guy that, gets you into the rebuild and stuff like that. But you're telling me that you have a potential for a Golden State model on your hands? Get rid of Mark Jackson, an established head coach, a guy who clearly was not the answer. And I understand Steve Kerr had coaching experience at higher levels compared to JJ, but former player slotted into head coach with a good roster. I think Golden State was obviously, turned out to be a great roster, but maybe Steve Kerr elevates them to a level of that next notch of roster construction and how they play. I don't think you should just turn off the JJ Redick, thoughts because he doesn't have any experience. Johnny Bryant has no head coaching experience. Let's keep it moving though. There's a lot less info on this guy. You can't, you find out some of his maybe tendencies based on the head coaches that he's been around, being around Tom Thibodeau. Obviously, you're going to feel some type of way about how you play guys, rotations, your defensive philosophy, crashing the glass, whole bunch of things. He has a relationship with Donovan Mitchell, and this is what makes me a little bit nervous because it's one thing to consult your players and to take constructive criticism and feedback. And I have a lot of admiration for Donovan Mitchell as a basketball player. I think he's a premier shooting guard in our league. I think he's one of the more talented guys in the Eastern Conference. He's obviously a superstar in the Cleveland Cavalier hierarchy, even though he's only played 2 seasons with us. All incredible stuff here. I am well aware that Altman probably goes to Donovan, and Donovan goes, yep, JB, let's get him out of here. Maybe not that cut and dry, but when you ask questions about somebody, it doesn't take too long to figure out, hey, Don, how do we feel about JB this season, maybe moving forward in the future? If you don't get an ecstatic answer like, yeah, JB's my guy, love our philosophies, we're right there, that's all the answer that you need. So this guy has a relationship with Donovan Mitchell, being on the coaching staffs of some of those Utah teams. But what I will say is, with all that being said, all the flowers given to Donovan Mitchell, he is still not at the elite level where you base every single organizational structure around him. People even hated this when we had LeBron. That's why why do you think LeBron has the nickname Lay GM? Because he was pulling the strings on a lot of those rosters. He was telling Dan Gilbert, hey, let's do this, let's do that. Maybe going over the general manager's head, maybe going right to David Griffin. That's basically what happens when you have a one-of-one like LeBron, when you have a one-of-one like Jordan. Hell, if Curry went to, the Warriors general manager maybe 2 or 3 years ago, was like, we're doing this, we're doing that he's a one-on-one. He revolutionized the game, 3-point shooting, yada, yada, yada. I like Donovan Mitchell. He's not a guy who you give the keys to the franchise to as far as general management decision-making. The extension is obviously in play. It should be the supermax. Whatever monetary value you want to give him to represent his play on the court is justifiable, and I am on board with. I'll be the first person to say that because without him, we're not that good of a franchise. We're a fringe playoff team to maybe a play-in team, and I think a lot of people would agree with that. But that's Kenny Atkinson. That's Johnny Bryant. Drop some stuff down below. What have you seen from these guys? Is there another candidate out there like a Redick, like a Borrega that maybe you're interested in that I didn't give thoughts to? Because like I said, I think it's going to be a couple more weeks before we get a hire here. Altman himself said we were taking this weekend off as far as looking at coaching staff, compiling characteristics, and going from there. But we'll see how this news transpires. This could be the first video of this, head coaching search series. And with that all being said, we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.